I'm helping out in a boatyard, and there's a customer of the boatyard who wants the packing gland repacked. So the packing gland is where the propeller shaft goes out of the boat, and the propeller shaft has to turn, and yet you don't want the water to come in. So there's a system where this material called packing, and it's basically rope that is squeezed to when it's square or made square, and it's packed with it's kind of a wax. It's the low-tech easy version, and there are some that are graphite. There's all kinds of versions, but the simplest stuff is basically square rope, simply square rope with some wax in it, and that goes into some things that you'll see in just a minute. And as you tighten this fitting down, it squeezes that, which allows the propeller shaft to spin, but does not allow the water in, so the boat doesn't have to sink. A couple little tricks to it. You allow a little bit of water to drip when the shaft is spinning. That cools it. And if you've adjusted it correctly, when the boat's sitting, no water's dripping. When the propeller shaft is spinning, just a little bit of water drips, and that keeps everything cool. So today I'm crawling down, and that's one of the unfortunate things about a Columbia 50. The fitting that we're going to work on is way down there, very hard to reach. But so we're going to reach way down in there and free this thing up, open it up, pull the old packing out, put new packing in, and do the initial adjustment. The final adjustment's done when she's in the water. So that's it for now. Going upside down into the bilge. So this, I've got my little light down here to help see. This is the propeller shaft. This is the actual packing gland, and the packing material, the flax packing that I just mentioned, is inside of here. And what we have to do is free up this nut. This is a locking nut. It stops this from spinning when the shaft is spinning, so it's compressed against here. So we're going to have to hit this a little bit to free it up. But we'll free this up, move it away, and then we'll just twist this off this direction. And one nice thing with all of this space is we'll be able to pull it way up this direction and reach inside of it, because we're going to have to get up inside of this to get the old packing out. And then we'll be able to go. One thing that's very nice on this boat, usually the Columbia 50, this piece right here is way over there. Very difficult to get to. And somewhere in the history of this boat, there's a metal extension right here. So there's a piece of hose like this. For any Columbia 50 owners out there, this is very smart. There's a piece of hose like this on the other end down there, which connects this metal piece right here to this piece of hose to this packing gland, which then allows you better access to this packing gland. It was very smart. If you wanted to, you could bring the packing gland all the way up here. That would be even easier. But there's other issues in that. Nothing is perfect in the world. So this is a brilliant addition to the Columbia 50. And we're very lucky to have it today. And so now I'm going to start freeing this thing up. Alright, so pardon me if I block your view, but I gotta get in here. And what you do to free this up is you get right on the edge over here. You verify which direction the threads are going. So I took the liberty of doing that before. When we spin this fitting on this boat, this direction, the lock nut will move away. Right? So you set the screwdriver right on the edge, and you give it a good solid whack. And you'll see it'll start to spin around. And all you have to do is break it free, so it starts to move. Whew. Old fat guy in the bilge. And then you can grab it with a pipe wrench or channel locks if you have big enough, and spin that thing back away. So I'm gonna, now that I got it to move just that little bit, let's see if my channel locks are big enough here. They are. And we'll spin that puppy around. Bigger ones would be easier, but I can see it going. And we'll see if I can do it by hand now. Yep. So all you need is for it to be backed away just some, nothing crazy. And now this thing can turn. And we're going to do the same thing in the opposite direction, only with this one, to make it a little easier, we're going to use a cold chisel because it will give us a better surface here. And we're just going to break it free. And there you see it's moving. That's all you need to do with the hammer part. It's always nerve-wracking as a boat owner to beat something with a hammer, but all you're doing is getting it to move a little bit. And then it's freed up enough to move it like that. And then, if you're lucky, and we're a little lucky, we can get it to move by hand. But I'm gonna run and grab a big pipe wrench. I'll be right back. Alright, so now we have the monster channel locks. And we're gonna reach in here one-handed. We're gonna trick everyone into thinking that we know what we're doing, but we're gonna open these up one more notch. Reach in here, grab a hold of this puppy, and it's not the Indy 500. You don't have to go at incredible speed, but you just free that thing up so that it is moving. And at some point, no two packing glands are exactly the same. At some point, you'll feel it free up, and it'll, because each time we turn it, there are less threads holding it back. And then you should be able to reach in. Alright, so I was turning by hand, but that whatever it is that's bent on this seems to be worse near the end of the threads. So even though we were hand tight, we're going to use the tool again for a little bit here at the end. Because it got sticky on me again. There we go, that felt like it popped loose. And then, yeah. And now you can see that the nut is off. And it's easier to see that this is the locking nut. The threads run continuously the whole way. And there's threads on the inside of this, but also the packing on the inside. So we're going to slide this up here. Oh yeah, that puppy is full. And pull out the old packing, stick in the new packing. Alright, so now we are back with our fun hook. There's a bunch of different kinds of hooks. You can get this kind of hook, this kind of straight poker, all kinds. There's no wrong way to do it, as long as you get the stuff out. I usually like to start with this one, just because, as you can see, it gets the stuff out And this is the really nice, expensive graphite stuff. And as you can see, the black, the cheaper stuff is white. And this is the really nice graphite. So I'm not sure what problem they were having. But we're going to fix it for them no matter what. And let's see what else we have in here. Oh, I see the problem they're having. That's the only piece left in the whole hoo-ha. There is no other packing. There should be at least 2 pieces, if not 3 pieces, and there are no pieces. They only had that one. So we're going to use our straight to poke and verify that. Yeah, they had nothing in there. That's amazing. So that is why he was having a problem, and that is very easy to fix. So now we're going to go get some graphite packing. Good morning. We're starting our second day on this. We had to order our packing material. So this is all one video for you, but it's the second day for me. And I talked about packing material when we were pulling it out. So this is graphite packing. There are different types of packing. You can get stuff that's white, and it's what we've been using for decades. It's wonderful stuff. The graphite stuff is slipperier, basically, and it lasts longer, and I like it, so I use it. Out here, you can get people who will give you instructional videos wearing gloves in a perfect world, in a perfect shop, and everything is perfect. We should probably call our video channel Real World Boat Repairs, because we're out here in the real world. But the packing, we are going to replace several pieces of it. Always, I highly recommend, even though it's a little rusty and ugly looking, it's brand new. I just pulled it out of the cardboard. And you can see, I'll put this up against, you can see, I do about a 45-degree angle cut. And that is going to allow a 45-degree angle cut coming in from the other side. Some people like a straight cut against a straight cut. And I don't argue with them. I like the angled cut because there's more surface area. The farther you cut back the angle, the more surface there is against more surface, and it allows it to seal better. It's my preference. It's what I recommend, but other guys do the straight cut. The reason that I don't do a longer cut is that it makes the material less stable. So 45 degrees, you have maximum relative stability along with maximum surface area for the seal. And so here we have our graphite packing, our brand new razor blade, and I just cut in my pretty darn close to 45-degree cut. And now we're going to head down to the shaft to measure. Even though some people use the old piece of packing to measure, I actually measure right off of the shaft, because then it's never wrong. It's going on that shaft. And so if you measure against that shaft, obviously it'll fit unless we screw up the cut. But so we're headed down to the shaft to measure. All right, so we're heading down into the hole. Pardon me if I don't sound so great, but I'm upside down in a boat. And so what we're going to do is pull this tight. And then mark it where the bottom is going to be. And then come back out and cut it up here. So this is the cut mark that I made down there, and it's at the maximum length point that's going to measure up against this. So we can just finish cutting that off. Last little bit's wise to cut away from yourself. Even out here in real world boat repairs, you're still trying not to cut your fingers off. And then we will match this up. And I have to admit, more than once, I have cut it the wrong way, where I cut the V this way, and it's not going to line up. So I always look at it at least 2 or 3 times. You get more packing than you need, so you can always afford to waste some, but why be stupid if you don't have to? So I always line this thing up to make sure that I'm cutting it the right way. And so my cut is going to go this way. We cut in our 45. And now, those two line up absolutely magically. So now we get these line up perfectly, and you get the extra surface area, and it's just a wonderful system. It's going to be hard for you to see, but what I'm going to do is take this back down, wrap it around the shaft, mesh those together, and smush it inside of that nut. And then we're going to do it 2 more times. We're going to put 3 pieces of this in there, and we're not going to bore you to death watching all 3, so I'll explain this one and then just do the other 3. And the other thing that I use, and I don't have it in my pocket, is a special shaft grease that I have over here. Running back. You do not have to use the Syntef. I really like it. They don't sponsor me. They don't give me free tubes. I don't even get a free tester. But on my own boat, I use this. It's a wonderful thing. It helps everything to line up. It helps it to go in. It helps the nut to go on smooth. It helps the nut to come back off smooth the next time. It's just wonderful stuff, and it keeps your shaft and your packing gland cooler. So I'm a big fan of it, and you won't be able to see much of it when I put it back together, but I smear this on here, and it's just a cool high-tech grease, blue grease. So you can see, it's kind of cold today. You can see I just smear that stuff on the packing, shove the packing in, and then we'll do it a total of 3 times, and that's that. So, see you on the backside when I'm putting everything together. Alright, so I smeared some grease, highly technical terms, smeared some grease on, and most of the grease I like to have on the inside because that's where the shaft is going to be spinning. A little bit of grease slop around to other places. But just to make sure that we've really got this stuff in here, I take a little and just shove some in there. And then as this piece goes in, it'll ooze and all kinds of wild, goofy stuff. And seal up and be wonderful. And life is good. And then the other cheater thing that I do, and you may have noticed that the cut ends didn't come completely together at first, and that's because I pulled them when I was cutting to make sure that their compressed size would be correct. And the easiest way to shove that new piece in is to just thread it in. Let the threads do the work for you. And so that one, that's the first one, so it's going to go in really deep. And that's deep enough. And now you guys get to relax while I do the next 2. Here's the third piece going in. You can see that I've greased the edges, the cut ends, greased the inside edge, a little bit of slop. And then I shot just a little bit of grease into the nut. It's kind of a low-tech thing, but just a little grease in there is kind of nice, helps everything go together. And then we wrap each of the pieces around, make sure that the 45 is correctly 45'd. Shove that thing in there, and this is where the grease helps. Shoving that in there, and then I push it just a little bit farther in with my fingers, and I run this up. And some of the grease stays on the shaft, which isn't so horrible, but 90% or more stays in there. And the threads will pack it the rest of the way in. And that's all you do for now, because the rest of that adjustment has to be done in the water. And that's all. And just on the off chance that we're in a hurry and you don't get to see it in the water, I've left it tight enough where water will not pour into the boat, but it'll drip a little bit. And then with the boat sitting, we'll just continue to tighten that until at rest it stops dripping. We'll bring the lock nut back up against it, and then we'll run the engine. It'll mesh all the grease around, bring everything together, and it should drip. Different people like different numbers, but if you have it dripping every 15 to 30 seconds while the engine is in gear, while the transmission is moving the propeller, it'll stay nice and cool. Truth be told, with all that wonderful grease in there, it will drip a little bit less and still stay cool because we have the wonderful grease. And because we have gone with the graphite packing and the wonderful grease, the legal guys go nuts, but the truth is, as long as you don't over tighten it, you can actually have damn near, or darn near, no dripping at all, and it will still work. But you have to keep an eye on it if you do that. Just reach down there and hold it every once in a while, make sure it's not getting hot. But I have done some of them where we use the graphite packing, a lot of this wonderful grease, don't over tighten it, but have no drip, and it runs great. Motor all night long, still nice and cool, everything's good. So you leave the science and you enter the art and the personal preference at this point. My personal preference, I like to use the grease, I like to use the graphite packing, and I like there to be an occasional drip. And that's it. So best of luck to you. Enjoy your packing gland. Just so you know, there are other types of packing glands. There are types with nuts, and it squeezes down with nuts, and I'm going to be doing one of those soon, and you'll be able to see the video on that. There are dripless that don't drip at all. There are two flat surfaces that touch each other. The PYI brand is the most common in yachts. So there's all kinds of different packings, but for the standard, classic, old-fashioned nut on thread style packing, this is how you do it, and enjoy your boating.